Folks, well, welcome once again to the Maximum Performance webinar series presented by Maximum Acceleration, the professionals coaching company. My name is Eric Danesco, the head coach and CEO here at Maximum Acceleration. And we started this series back in October of 2012 as a method of bringing together a community of top-notch mortgage professionals who really wanted to step up their game and sharpen their skills to take them to the next level. Our focus, obviously, is on how to build business faster. And today's guest speaker and special program is one that I'm very excited to bring to you all because not only is this gentleman a gentleman in the industry, he's really a pillar in the industry in a lot of cases. I had the opportunity to meet David for the first time probably back in 2003 or 4 as part of a think tank group and power users conference project that was hosted by Loan Toolbox back in 2003. David Kuiper is a seasoned originator, over $1 billion in career origination, burgeoning on 30-plus years in service. And one of his specialties has been in the area of building strong partnerships and relationships with home builders and what that can do to handle a lot of the challenges and issues and problems that you experience by working with traditional realtors and solving problems of limited inventory. So David's going to share with us really how to build your business and what it looks like to build a solid and sustainable flow of volume and purchase business with builders. So without further ado, David, why don't you go ahead and share what you have to share today.
All righty. Thank you, Eric, and welcome everybody. As I was preparing for this presentation, I came across a quote that was very timely from Lawrence Young, the chief economist at NAR, the National Association of Realtors. And he said, given that there is an inventory shortage in many parts of the country, builders will have to build more. As they build more, there will be an increase in new home sales. So that was music to my ears because I love working with builders and new home construction clients. And I like the word increase in sales because that's what it's all about. So over the years, I've had the opportunity to work on new construction financing and financing of newly built homes, well over 1,000 of them now, and have built twice personally, so it's kind of a near and dear topic. And I find that not a lot of loan officers are confident or comfortable with the concept of getting into the builder business because builders are different than realtors. And there's personalities and egos, and there's certainly the process and product availability limitations at points. And it's a drawn-out process. It's much more involved. It can, go on for up to a year rather than a 30-day escrow. So I just want you to know, don't be scared. Builders are really nice, and they need us. And it is a great source of business. I really got heavy into the business early 2000s into focusing on new construction intentionally. And I kind of plateaued out, and I couldn't grow my average loan size, and there wasn't enough hours in the day to do more units in volume. And so one of the strategic decisions that I made was, wow, how do I grow my average loan size? And one of them was, well, new home construction loans tend to be larger than most purchase loans. And as a benefit of increasing my average loan amount, I discovered that while the process can be more lengthy and intense and emotional, the amount of hand-holding that has to go on decreases significantly because it's typically a slightly more sophisticated buyer, usually that's owned a home before. There's not as many of the questioning process question. They've had a loan before, they've owned a home before, and so it's a easier transaction to facilitate from that perspective. And quite often the financial profile is stronger. We're not scraping nickels together to try to come up with a down payment, and typically our average FICO scores are much higher, and there is some assets and some net worth and those kind of things going on. So it just becomes a more quality and simple transaction from the loan file approach. So I don't know, Eric, maybe a year and a half ago, we did a session on developing relationships with financial advisors. And so some of these steps will seem similar because getting to know people, whether they're builders or realtors or financial advisors or CPAs, the financial professionals that we depend on and work closely with, it's a very similar process. So first little bit, I just want to kind of recap or review or introduce for first-time listeners some of these steps in going forth with procuring a new relationship. So we'll look at how to identify builders. Who do you want to work with? How do we approach them? And then how do we engage in the relationship and then nurture or maintain that relationship in an ongoing manner? So one of the primary ways that I like to meet with a builder is just a personal introduction. I am not a fan of cold calling and dialing for dollars and popping by unannounced at a job site or something. I like a warm introduction. So one of the primary ways that I can do that is by talking with existing clients. If somebody's calling or I'm meeting with them and we're reviewing what it is that they're wanting to do, just getting a personal introduction, finding out who that builder is or who they built their previous home and what their experience was like and what the personality was like, and just kind of feeling it out for what that fit might be like. So big fan of getting that introduction from the client. Professional networking kind of by definition says you need to go where the people you want to meet are. So where do builders hang out? In addition to 6:30 breakfast meetings at the Greasy Spoon Diner, some good places to find where builders are hanging out might be on a job site, whether that's one that you financed or one of your clients is building, might be a model home. And I would also recommend getting involved with your local HBA. So if you go to www.NAHB, the National Association of Home Builders.com, you can hit find a local association and search by your city, your state, and find out what groups are available. Visiting the website will also allow you to subscribe to NAHB news feeds. So you'll be able to get information on demographics and challenges facing the industry and pending legislation and trends that are going on and the like. But when you identify the Home Builders Association that you might be interested in joining, you can get involved. And even though we're not builders, most associations have affiliate memberships available. And I've been part of the education committee and the membership committee for many, many, many years. And it's just a great way to rub shoulders and sit next to building professionals and getting to know them. And financing is always a challenge. And so, the money stuff is near and dear to their hearts, and so they want to get to know you. So it's a way of meeting them initially for the introduction, but then as you serve together, they get a little bit of a feel for what kind of person you are and what you can do, that you follow through on things and things like that. So I highly recommend getting involved there. And in my experience, not a lot of mortgage people are involved with the local HBA associations, and so you'll just kind of stand out and be different by virtue of taking action and doing that. So whether you're finding or getting an introduction from a client or a friend on a builder that you might enjoy working with, or you are networking with them at a industry event or getting involved in a builder association, I found another great thing to do is just look at your local newspaper, the little rag that you don't pay much attention to, for announcements, awards, certifications, new subdivisions opening. Just the local news is a great way to get that initial exposure to a builder and finding who it is that you want to start to engage in a relationship with. So then once we identify who it is that we want to go after, who might be a good fit as a business development partner with us, we need to get together with them. So making that introductory call, affirming a relationship. I heard about you from, I understand you're one of the best at, you just announced that you were opening a subdivision. I happen to live right next door, whatever it is to break the ice, and then just ask for the appointment. Let them know that you're an expert in new construction, new home financing, and that you'd like a few minutes of their time just to see what they've got going on, get to know a little bit more about them and what makes them tick, what they're looking to do, what's important to them about facilitating financing of new home construction. And then I typically will confirm that with an email and a handwritten note, sometimes send a gift if there's something applicable, a book or something on a topic that may be of interest I'm a big reader, so I like to, when I experience a good read that has value that I think others would benefit from, like to pass that along as well. And then just a little sample of a note confirming an appointment and affirming a relationship and the appointment details. So it's important to understand some of the key terminology in construction world, and I do not have my builder's license. I've thought of doing that. It's getting a little more complex to do so, at least here in Michigan where I'm based. But I think that can be a good way of understanding a little bit more about what really goes on behind the scenes in building a new home. So there's your challenge. Do it before I do. So some of the key terminology that's going to come up. How is a construction loan different than a purchase transaction? And one of the key differentiators is just the whole concept of extended locks. This house is not going to be ready or eligible for a conventional mortgage in 30 days or 45 days. This is going to be a 5-month maybe if it's a semi-custom tract-built home. More likely 8 or 9 months or up to a year on some of the higher-end custom homes. And in our part of the world, post-economic calamity, there is such a shortage of workers, of people that are getting into the construction industry. Everybody that was in new construction fled and either moved to warmer climes to get away from Michigan or where the jobs were, or got into completely different lines of work. So the trades, the subcontractors, the carpenters, there just aren't enough of them, and so there's just this massive pent-up demand for new homes because people are having a challenge finding existing homes that are available. And so that just adds to the length of time that it takes because there's a limited number of people that are able to do the construction these days. So understanding different lock terms and how that impacts pricing. Is it an additional fee? Is it an adjustment to interest rate? How do closing costs differ from a new construction loan with site and foundation surveys and multiple inspections and completion certificates and occupancy permits and all that goes on? It's very important. And understanding completion risk and if this person starts this home, are they actually going to follow through and buy it and move in and finish it and continue to fund it 6, 8, 9, 10 months from now? So extended locks is huge. Now I understand that not everybody is a banker or a mortgage banker and that there are likely some brokers on the call as well. I happen to work for a bank, and so we do self-fund our construction loans that we do. If you're not in that position, then I would certainly recommend seeking out a local community bank that you know, love, and trust, and see if you can't make some kind of for funding of the construction loan with you doing the end loan. The fourth bullet point that this relates to here on the screen is the concept of the construction permanent loan, which is a one closing for both the construction phase and the permanent mortgage that the client is looking to get. So that might be a 30-year fixed rate with 8 months tacked onto the front of it, during which time they're just paying the interest or the carrying cost of what's been advanced on the loan. And then at completion, it becomes the mortgage. So that allows for just one set of documentation, one set of closing costs, and the ability to secure an interest rate now when we have absolutely no idea what interest rates are going to be at the end of the time frame that it's going to take to construct this house. So there's that concept, and that's primarily what I do. There are also construction-only loans, which basically are just a line of credit for a determined period of time to fund the house, and then the homeowner, the borrower client, will need to obtain their mortgage financing at the end. So that's a great relationship that you can work out with the community bank or somebody local. Or talk to your management team about securing some type of line of credit so that you can self-fund and hold some of that on your books temporarily, understanding some of the risks associated with doing that. And then there's development loans. That is not something that I have ever been involved in or care to be involved in, but the acquisition of land and putting in the infrastructure tends to be more of a commercial project, and those are great people to get to know as well. I work with a couple of commercial bankers at other companies who have been personal mortgage clients of mine, and their company's focus is the development in the commercial aspect, and they're not really so great at doing residential mortgages, and they realize it. The company I work for, rock stars at the residential end, but not so much interested in the commercial or the development kind of thing. So just understanding some of those differences, and sometimes builders' arrangements with their commercial commercial loan providers, require that they end up with X amount percentage of residential mortgages in the project when it's done. So just understanding some of the behind-the-scenes terminology, I think, is key. So we've identified who it is that we want to engage in a relationship. We meet with them, or we schedule a meeting with them. We plan ahead, get to know some of the terminology and what it is that we talk about. Having been young and hungry a very long time ago in this business, the concept of follow-through and being a student of your craft and really knowing the ins and outs and all the guidelines and requirements and regulations, and are there bigger down payments requirements for construction versus purchase, or are there higher FICO requirements, or does certain builders get to be approved and other builders not so much, and knowing exactly what it is so that you don't overcommit or communicate that something's able to be done that might not. And that's a lesson that you maybe screw up once or twice and then never do again, that I learned the hard way when first engaging in new construction financing, because it is different. I like to explain to clients that on their side of the desk, it's about the same in terms of how much can they afford and how much of a down payment do they need and what are their monthly payments going to look like and such, whether they build or buy. On my side of the desk, very different. And so walking that fine line between conveying too much information, like perpetuating the myth that this is an overwhelming, complex, painful process to go through the home building process, and absorbing a lot of that extra anxiety away from them and taking on the responsibility of making it as transparent as possible. So you have your appointment scheduled and you get to meet with this builder. Obviously, you need to introduce yourself and who you work for and why you're there and how you got to be there and how you heard about them and the like. But then really make the interview about them. Find out how they got into home building, what they love about home building. Have them tell some feel-good, warm and fuzzy success stories. Have them talk about some of their challenges. Ask them about who the provider might be that they're working with now. A lot of builders have what they call preferred providers, and sometimes that's with a marketing agreement, or sometimes not. But what is it that they love about the place, or what challenge have they been facing, or what would they improve if they could, and just gather the information. Find out about their plans. What are they going to continue to do with this community, for example? Or are they a custom home builder that expect the homeowners to come to them with a piece of land that's going to be where the new home is built, and just explore a lot about what's going on there. I'm big about sharing my values up front, and if this is something, a relationship that we're going to be introduced or interested in carrying out and following through on, I want to make sure that I set some criteria, right up front. This will give you an out later if you need to fire somebody for not living up to your criteria as well. But obviously, honesty and integrity Typically with new home construction, we're talking bigger dollars and something that doesn't exist and lots of unknowns and long periods of time. Are they doing it the right way? Are they following the rules? Are they doing things for the right reason? I like people that are growing, that want to continue to grow. They've got to be fun. Life's too short to work with people you don't like, so make sure you like people. I want them to be balanced. I don't want to be getting phone calls at 7 o'clock on a Saturday night because I'm not going to answer it, and I don't want that to be frustrating to them. So I want to communicate to them with that. I want to be as efficient as possible. I want to involve their team and my team so that this process can be smooth. I want them to be loyal. I want them I want to be their go-to guy. Hey, Dave talks to all of our clients. I don't want to be one of the readers of cards or whatever. And then having similar values, which comes back to doing the right thing and engaging in life in a similar manner. Talk about what's different. Know your competition. That should go without saying, whether you're in the new construction business or in a purchase market. What are your competitors? Are there any competitors? In some markets there aren't. In some markets there are. Who's doing this financing and how are they doing it? What kind of fee structure do they operate under? What kind of down payment requirements? I know if somebody's talking to me about something and they mention a competitor, for example, I know who has large down payment requirements than I do. I know what fee structures look like. I know whether or not construction permanent loans are an option or if they do construction only. And so just knowing that and figuring out what it is that you do best. And that obviously would, in a warm intro situation of why your client worked with you, if you have a client and you work on a new construction project with a builder who the client happens to select and you don't know them, probably goes without saying that having a good experience of timely draw releases and making the process very minimal for the builder. They want to hammer nails. They don't want to fill out paperwork, but there is paperwork required both for financing purposes as well as for meeting state requirements and regulations. Making that as simplistic as possible. So once you've had that good experience, that's a great affirmation. Builders tend to talk amongst each other, and kind of like we do as loan officers, and vent frustrations and those kind of things. So very often when builders get together to talk, they express concerns and frustrations and such about the process that they or their clients are going through. So hearing some of those stories and then knowing how do you overcome either objections or pain points in the process, and then resolving those and how you can do that. What's in it for them? Well, peace of mind, knowing that before they dig a hole and start committing to their subs and suppliers big dollars, that this homeowner, this client is actually qualified for financing. So similar to realtors taking up, wanting to go show people homes, builders want to know that the people are solid. Sometimes larger builders will provide their own interim financing. They don't want to mess around with their customers, their homeowners getting construction loans, and so they really want to know, and they want a fully underwritten file with appraisal up front so that they can alleviate some of that risk of knowing whether or not the homeowner is actually going to qualify for a mortgage when they're finished. So either way, it's very important to have certainty and confidence to proceed. And ultimately, it's all about, for the builder, selling more homes. So the ability to close on time as promised is huge. So client testimonials are a big tool, especially from a new home client or a peer builder. And then once we've had that meeting and we work together a little bit, we need to nurture the relationship. So having some follow-up campaigns, whether that be for clippings, recognizing them in the media, subscribing to some of the periodicals and trade magazines and online information, knowing what's going on, being a student of their business as well as being a student of your business. is huge. Having them receiving the other information that your real estate agents and builders that set up, a subscription basis, set up drip campaign or whatever, or if you manually set that up on your own. But continue to stay top of mind, build it into your quarterly or semi-annual reviews with your production partners or however you have that follow-up mechanism in place, but make sure you're including them. That would include, stopping by with coffee on a Saturday morning at a model home or something like that as well. And then give them a feel for what it is that you do. Again, that comes back to part of how are you different than somebody else. So when you talk about some of the tools that you use in your practice, planning worksheets or whatever, and looking at integrating debt into the overall financial structure, and what do you bring to the table, and what other resources do you have, and what other partners do you work with that can add value to your client. And I think I mentioned it earlier, but staff, it's very important that staffs of the builders work well with your staff. So having that handoff of trust and confidence transfer. So I don't want to get involved and bogged down with all the details of the draw process for the next 9 months. So making sure that the builder knows that they can talk to Lauren here in our office who's going to manage their draw process, and having that personal introduction so that they know each other and can work well together. And that allows me to step back and business can continue to go on. I've found, and it's getting harder, people can get a lot of the information that they need online right now, and not a lot of people are committed or are able to, being as busy as they are, to attend seminars. But we have done several successful new home building seminars, and that could either be, starring you or jointly with a builder, or maybe with a real estate agent that specializes in new home sales, and just walking prospective people who are thinking about building through the process and what that's going to look like, and obviously why you're the expert at helping them do that. And so that's just continuing to develop leads. One of the conversations that I have with every client that is looking for a new home and experiencing frustration with, hey, every house we go to look at feels like we're going to a garage sale because there's 7 other agents showing the house and I've written 27 offers and I can never get one accepted. It is just bringing up the idea, have you ever thought about building? And then walking them through how that's similar and what the differences are between building new and purchasing. And then obviously tracking all that information religiously in the database. Continuing ed, staying on top of what's going on in the builder world. I have not taught any continuing ed for builders because I just don't know that I'm qualified to, instruct somebody on energy code. But that could be something, especially if you were licensed, or maybe you're a recovering builder that's now a loan officer. Could be a great niche to be in as well. But as always, communication is huge. Learning not to overcommit and underdeliver is a big thing. But there's so much going on in the process, so setting clear expectations on timelines. How long is it going to take when they request a draw to have it funded? What kind of documentation is expected, both upfront and in an ongoing manner? What are the expectations of the homeowner? So setting clear expectations is huge, and communicating during the process, both upfront, confidence building. Yes, this is a solid homeowner that's going to be able to follow through and build in this price range. Some of the similar advice that we would give to a real estate agent, as well as what the process looks like. So having, I find that having a lot of handouts and clear communication about what is this process, what's expected of the homeowner, what's expected from the builder, documentation, timelines, and the like. And when people know things up front, they expect it. When you ask for something that they had no idea that was going to be coming, it just becomes a point of conflict. Confidentiality is huge. builders do things differently. You're going to start to see different builders' profit margins and how they run their business, and so that obviously needs to be kept close to the vest, as well as confidentiality of your client's financial profile and what the builder wants to know and do with their with the new home that they're proposing with their client. And then always, actions speak louder than words. You're only as good as how you perform, and that needs to be communicated as well. The two pieces of advice that I give to homeowners, and I let builders know as well, having built twice personally and have worked with over 1,000 new home construction loans. Number one is to finish the house on paper before you get started. And that sounds simple, but it can be really complex because I've done it both ways. And what I mean by that is knowing exactly what your expectations are and what they're going to cost so that there's no surprises later. So a lot of the flaky builders kind of, got flushed away during the economic crisis. But it used to be common practice that, they would try to underbid another builder or something like that. But understanding in a construction contract when it says lighting allowance, $5,000, flooring allowance, cabinet allowance, whatever, it's those fit and finish things that people care about. Those are the things they're going to see, and that's where they have the most discretion. So if there's just a line item that says $8,000 for cabinets, I don't know what that means. Yeah, the construction contract is lower, so that sounds good. I guess I'll go with that builder. And then I go to pick out my cabinets, and I have $18,000 cabinet taste. I've got two choices. I can write a check for $10,000 to fund the difference, or I can pick those sucky $8,000 cabinets that I'm going to hate every morning when I get my coffee cup and beat myself up. Neither of which are very attractive options. So signing a construction contract that's $10,000 higher up front is going to prevent a lot of pain for unexpected surprises later. And then my second tip is if there's going to be work that you'd like to have done later but you're not doing now, like finishing a lower level or having an accessory building or putting a bonus room above the garage or something like that, either you've decided not to do it because you don't need that right now, or you're trying to cut some cost out of this project. Plan ahead for it. It's going to be a lot easier if you someday want to finish your lower level to have in-floor radiant heat installed before they put the concrete in, so they're not back 5 years from now shifting it all up while you live there and creating a mess. My personal horror story was we didn't finish the bonus room above the garage, but I forgot, and now if I wanted to, it was like a $15,000 change order if we wanted to do that. And if I wanted to do it now, it would cost me over $100,000 because I don't have the right trusses under my garage roof, and I would have to tear the whole roof off my whole house and rearrange a bunch of stuff, and it would just be a nightmare. So if I had sprung a couple $1,000 back then to get the right trusses in, it'd be no big deal today. So planning ahead for something that might be done later and knowing that you've got it cared for now, it will be more cost-effective and convenient later if you've planned for it up front. That was the bonus information that was not on the slide. Don't make assumptions. Understand their business, continue to learn their business are all huge. So I mentioned some of the benefits of working with clients, like higher average loan amounts and more experienced, savvy borrowers and better credit profiles and the like. But working with a builder also leads to a high trust relationship. When the builder has that confidence that they know the homeowner's loans are closing on time as promised, they're getting their funding draws on time, that's just huge. And they tend to treat you very well. They will refer clients to you. You will become an extension of the team. It helps you escape the commodity trap, especially if there's limited resources for new home financing. And which in turn then helps eliminate some of the peaks and the valleys of our business of people are always going to build new homes. So even if interest rates go up, people are still going to build new homes. Most of us are working in communities where there is just a huge demand. The new home starts are up. The number of household formations is continuing to increase. If we can get our millennial children to move out of the basement and get their own house, that will even create more demand. And then it's very personally rewarding. I just like being a part of new. I like seeing the blueprints. I like seeing dirt turned over. I like the smell of lumber. It's just fun to be something and dreaming big with our clients. So some ideas. These are going to be practical things that you can do. And some of these are easy and some of these will take a little bit of work, and we will be providing some resources to you with the recording of this so that you can visualize and swipe and adapt some ideas here to implement and help you as you look to grow. I like to do events for builders, and one of my favorite is every year my good friend Elliot Eisenberg, who that name may ring a bell to some people, he's a former economist with the NAHB and now out on his own, but he's one of the funniest, irreverent, and wicked smart economists out there, and he really knows new construction well. And I'd heard him speak in an event once, and I'm like, oh, dude, I got to get to know this guy. And so I got to speak a few times with him. I've become good friends with him over the years. And he is in Michigan once or twice a year speaking for professional associations and the NAHB and local associations and that sort of thing. And so we scam him the day before, the day after, the evening before his presentation when he comes into town, and just host a special event with a small group of builders. And we make it feel really special for the builders, and we do it at a really nice high-end steakhouse. And we might have 10 or 12 builders, and Elliot is the expert, and us as the host, where we just spend an evening together, and I can pick his brain on a more personal level and just get a better feel. So it's a great value add, great thing to invite prospective builders that you'd like to get to know to as well. So I'll provide some resources for that. Builder publications, there's lots of little trade magazines that you might not even be aware of. Some of them are published by your local HBA chapter. There are different lumber yards and the like that do publications, so that could mean advertising, obviously, and as well as providing content. They're always, any publication is always looking for content, so writing an article on the home building process or something like that would be great. One of my favorite is the Model Home Survival Kit, which is something that we put together, and it's just a bag of goodies, trinkets and trash, branded, selling us, but just gives them something to have there while they're sitting, maybe bored, on a Saturday afternoon at the model house. And that would include some propaganda, you know, the coffee mugs and pens and sticky notes and that kind of thing. I like to throw a book to read in there, an air freshener, a candle, a water bottle, some breath mints, some trail mix. I don't know, go crazy. But that's just a fun little gift to hand out or drop off as you're out doing your round. I mentioned that many of the larger builders have their preferred relationships. So exploring whether or not that's required, and then maybe investigating what does it take to become a preferred lender with them to do some of that co-branding approach. A couple of years ago, when we started first getting into this whole inventory crisis, we did a panel and hosted did the panel with some builders, some realtors, some appraisers, some lenders on just what the challenges are. So real estate agents work in their own ways, and builders work in their own ways, and loan officers work in their own ways. And traditionally, builders and realtors don't play very nice together. There's just not good communication, not good expectation. Somebody goes through a builder's model home, and the builder signs a contract with them, and then all of a sudden there's a realtor involved. And the realtor doesn't know, when the realtor brings somebody to a builder to build a new home, they don't know if they're going to get paid up front when the contract's signed, or if they're going to get paid when the homeowner moves into their house. And how to be involved with changeovers and the draw process, and there just needs to be really good, clear lines of communication. Property values are rising. It does cost more to build a new home than buy an equivalent home, and with appraisals being, trailing 6 months in value, the challenge of not having custom homes that are under contract being reported in the MLS as a sale is a challenge from a value perspective. So how do appraisers and builders communicate on that and providing additional supporting documentation for value? So hosting an event like that is great. Having a high-end custom home builder and a tract home builder and a remodeler, they're all going to bring a little bit of a different perspective. Realtors that specialize in new construction or that work for a builder, a few different appraisers. Don't be afraid to invite some of your peers from other lenders that work elsewhere to bring the different perspective of appetite for new construction and how things are approached and requirements and the like. Client appreciation is big on that. What I mean in this context by that is inviting people, providing complimentary tickets to events, for example. So recently we had a new home and remodeling show, like a big trade expo that went on. And this past weekend there was the cottage and lakefront living show. And both of those happened to be sponsored by a larger HBA in an adjoining city. And they allow me to buy vouchers at half price, and I can then search my database for who is in the process of building, who's looking ahead to building, who wants to build, who just built, who just finished, and offering them tickets. And that's been it's just a nice way of giving back and showing appreciation to your client, and then gets them into the venue where they can see what's new and exciting going on in the trends in decorating and landscaping and whatever else is going into the pieces and parts of the house that they're getting ready to build or are currently building, so that they can get as much as they can from the process. I mentioned earlier lots of handouts, clearly communicating how does a construction loan work, what expectations are there, what's it going to look like. And I like to involve the kids. It's just a fun piece. They're excited about the new house that their parents are building as well. So we have a supply of fake hard hats here in the office that are branded, and so the kids can wear those and pretend they're building. I've picked up sticker books of new construction of building a house. I'd like to give away books to very young children, like the Berenstain Bears Moving Day or something like that. So just involving the kids. Parents love it, and it keeps them quiet while they're sitting there in your office. Custom tape measurers or levels or multi-purpose tools or something branded. I like the tape measure because people are going to be out on the job site checking out their house, and it's just a way that when they pull that out to take a measurement or whatever, they're going to see your name again. And it's just a nice little gift, token of appreciation as well. And I get a lot of mileage from having signage on construction sites. Made the mistake of, buying heavy-duty, really nice signs. Don't. They're going to get bulldozed and buried, and it's not worth it. So just having the cardboard wires sticking in the ground, and if you have to throw another one out there, who cares? And if you never get it back, who cares? But as people are driving through subdivisions or driving down the road and seeing these signs, not many people do that in my part of the world. And so just standing out for number one, it's some name and brand recognition for Dave. And number two, it's just saying, whoa, there's 12 houses in this subdivision that are going up right now, and Kuiper's financed 5 of them. I better call him. So investigate what that might look like. And I think that's probably about it for my time, Eric. So we kind of flew through some of those to-dos, and we'll get you some more resources so that you can take visualize some of those and then take them and run with them.
Awesome. Well, David, thanks for the content. We've got a couple of questions here that I want to make sure we have time for, but there's a few things that I wanted to mention. One of them is the issue about, I'm a broker or I'm an independent, mortgage bank, but I don't have a great construction loan project. How do I work with builders? Any thoughts, ideas, comments in that respect?
Well, being the person that does have the ability to provide construction financing is a bonus, because then my peers elsewhere that can't, I become their resource. So if you are in a position where you're already doing a fair amount of new construction lending, or you would like to, and you have the ability to with where you work, finding out a little bit about who doesn't, getting to know them, can become an ancillary way of picking up some additional business as well. You'll be able to provide that service for them. Now, if you're a mortgage banker or a broker that doesn't have, the cash availability to fund in-house, finding out who does and having some kind of arrangement that's compliant and legal and all those kind of things, obviously, whether that involves compensation or not, and figuring out how you can work together. So I've got this pre-approved client. Do you have the ability to fund the construction loan? I've got an approval for the end loan at completion. That takes probably kissing a few frogs to find a good person that you can trust that's not going to take your end loan when the time comes. It would be very easy to do for the client, other than the relationship they have established with you. But again, clear communication of, we've got you committed for your mortgage at completion. This lender is going to step in and provide the financing for the interim, and then as soon as your house is done, and then having that calendared and prompted so that you know when to follow up and refresh the file and update the documentation and the like for that end loan would be important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and my take on that, guys, I worked for a lender, and when I was originating, I worked for a lender that didn't really have a great construction loan product. I was in a rural community. My construction loan product was looking for the larger corporate builder who did 10-plus homes a year. It just was not a good fit. So I found a local community bank, a one-branch, bank that didn't want to do any secondary financing at all. They wanted to be able to turn their money quickly. They wanted to create a high return on that money, very short term. So they loved the idea of doing the short-term construction loan for me with my end loan pre-approval. And that was one great way to compete in the builder sector, particularly if I was in when the market would shift to a point where we were short on inventory, which we were. I was right outside the gate of a military base that tripled in size in 3 years. So obviously housing demand was a big problem in that area. Anyway, the other element of this is there's another question here. You mentioned briefly, David, the idea of becoming the preferred lender, or how to win that potential relationship, particularly when we're trying to break into a more established builder who already has those kind of relationships. Can you share some insight on how to work to become that preferred lender?
I'm afraid I don't, and I've not been involved in that personally. I've seen it happen. I've provided information and feedback and insight and that sort of thing, but not on the front end legal compliance sort of arrangements. But I think I can speak somewhat to how would you find that. A lot of builders have posted on their websites, links to their preferred lenders or whatever. So you could do some exploring of what some of the larger established builders have. So you're probably not going to get all hung up on becoming a preferred lender. If somebody doesn't have a preferred lender, it's going to be more of a, how do I replace this preferred lender or also become one? And finding out, and then knowing a lot about who their preferred lenders are. How, what is their approach? What is their appetite? What are their requirements? What's the process like?
Right. Well, it's also important to know kind of what is the relationship and or benefit that they're receiving from that preferred lender, because often it can be very thin. My personal experience in the area is especially the bigger, more corporate building companies, not necessarily your locally owned home construction or custom home construction, but particularly like your D.R. Hortons and your Centex homes and places like that. A lot of the times the staff on the ground doesn't really like what they get service-wide from the quote-unquote in-house mortgage company. And as a result, the relationship with the people who are actually showing the homes and selling the homes can be critical to being able to break in and to being able to make that transition happen. And again, keep in mind, a lot of times, guys, that this happens as a result of the fact that you've pre-approved who just can't find a house. Now you've got to take them in the direction of helping them look at going the construction path as a last-ditch effort to get in a home because there's nothing else that meets their standards, right? Well, you have a controlled relationship with the buyer already, and that's a great way to ease into some of these neighborhoods where you're going to be trying to break in. One thing, by the way, guys, I want to highlight one thing you heard David say subtly. The new construction signs, that was brilliant, David. I mean, if you guys think about the social capital of the fact that you're going to have a sign, that construction is going to be under, that project, that home is going to be under construction for 6 to 12 months. If you have a sign in that yard for 6 to 12 months, how many other homes going up in that neighborhood are going to see your name, information, and whatever on that sign in that yard when they drive into the property to look at a vacant lot or to think about maybe buying in that neighborhood and building in that neighborhood down the road? That's huge. And I love the idea about the cheap disposable ones that you don't mind losing or replacing periodically. All right, guys. Well, keep posting. Yeah, well, keep posting your guys' questions as we go here. I'm going to do, just as before we hit the top of the hour, there's one quick thing I wanted to do. One of the other questions that was asked is, what is maximum acceleration? It sounds like we've got some new folks on here who's not been a part of the series ongoing. Our focus and our goal is getting you from where you are to where you want to grow as fast as humanly possible, and that's the reason we named the company Maximum Acceleration. We offer a couple of different levels of service, from virtual coaching home study programs, kind of the do-it-yourself model. We offer group or on-site facilitated workshops and trainings, and we also offer one-on-one personal development coaching, strategic planning guidance, and support in that respect. If you guys are interested in finding out more about what we do here at Maximum Acceleration, we found over time the best and easiest way for you to understand the true value of coaching and the difference between coaching from a long-term reinforcement repetition behavioral change versus training is to just experience it. And so we offer a no-cost, no-obligation strategy session. It's a 1-hour consultation with one of our expert coaches. They are scheduled on a first-come, first-served basis because we have a limited number of these sessions available each week with our current staff loads. But if you're interested, the best way to get access to that is go ahead and post in the Q&A section the best phone number or email address for us to be able to reach you for scheduling purposes, so that we can go ahead and get that appointment booked for you. Beyond that, guys, there's one last thing that I would encourage you to do. You've invested a little less than an hour of your time already in today's event. But the thing is, you've gained a lot of knowledge. David has shared a wealth of information about how to grow your business by build your business. But ideas that don't get implemented are useless, right? Knowledge isn't power until it's put into action. So take 30 seconds before you jump on that next phone call, before you return that next email or respond to that processor who's been pacing by your door for the last 20 minutes, and solidify what your action plan is going to be. Take a few steps seconds here to complete this exercise, to put these ideas in practice. One, ask yourself, what was the most valuable thing you heard in today's program? What's the one idea you want to implement first, right? You can always come back to the recording later and fill in the next 2, 3, 4 project down the road. But second, what action do you need to take to make that one key idea part of your business going forward? What are the action steps? What are the things you need to do? What's the list you need to build? What's the conversation outline that you need to practice? What's what is the value proposition or differentiator that you're going to use when trying to communicate with builders how you want to help them grow their business? Map out those action steps, right? Third, by when are you going to have that action implemented? Put a deadline on it. Put a target date for completion. And fourth is who is going to be your accountability partner to keep you on track as you move forward. The reason we do this exercise at the end of the webinar series is back in 1993, there was a research study done by Brigham Young University. It basically said if you do these four things, if you set a goal, create your action plan, put target dates for completion on the action plan, and share that action plan with somebody you ask to hold you accountable to those target dates, to check in with you regularly and support your progress, you have a 95% chance of following through on implementing that idea. And of course, if there's anything we can do here at Maximum Acceleration to help and support you in that, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask. And we'd be honored to have the privilege to talk to you about that possibility. Couple of other questions that popped in here, David, just as we're moving to kind of wrap up today. One of the other questions was, what is it that builders are really motivated by? What are the economics of, what are the things that builders most want from their lending partners?
I would say primarily it's going to be process related. They want it to be easy. They don't want to have to fill out a lot of paperwork. They want to get their money on time. They've got bills due. Typically, construction loans are on a reimbursement basis, so they've got their trades, their suppliers, and their subcontractors that they owe money to, and they want to get that off their books as soon as possible to maintain the relationship. If you're not paying your subs and suppliers, it's going to just spiral out of control, and not as favorable terms can be negotiated and the like. So the timeliness of inability to process funding draws is huge with a limited amount of paperwork. I think that's number one that I hear. Number two is just the simplicity and ease of intercourse. There's plenty of stress already. People are overwhelmed and there's lots of decisions to be made. And how can we alleviate some of that anxiety, pull some of that off the table, and make this a fun and enjoyable process? Because a not stressed out customer for them is a beautiful thing, because then they can focus on the fun of getting going on the new project. Having clear and consistent communication during the process as to what things are looking like. Do they have the ability to upgrade this or that? And knowing exactly what they have to work with is huge, because when you go to the architect, you go to the drawing board and start planning your new house, it's insane. And I can promise you the initial quotes are going to be higher than anybody thought was possible for building what they wanted to build. It's just the nature of the beast these days. So having the confidence and certainty and ability to follow through, I would say, would be the third thing that they're looking for. Ultimately, it leads to more profitability for them in terms of the more efficiently they can work with their employees and their staffs and their teams. The more they can focus on building the next house. So making that as transparent and simplistic as possible is huge.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, my experience has been, particularly, higher end residential construction is probably one of the ultimate examples of time is money. And timeliness is a big concern for these guys, because in a lot of cases, especially if the builder, especially if you're not a bank like David, if you're an independent originator who the builder had to carry the construction note, they're paying that daily interest on that $4 or $5, $100,000 balance on that loan, and that's $20, $20, $30, $50 a day in daily interest charges that builder is carrying. And if it takes a week longer to close the deal, then that margin on that construction just got cut by $500 to $1,000. That's literally money out of that builder's pocket. And so, that's a big part of it as well, is clear expectations and managing timeliness and everything and anything we can do to speed up the process as much as possible. And keep in mind, I often used to equate it to the hurry up and wait game. Right, it's like we got to rush to get the deal ready at the start, and then we sit around for 6 months until they're almost done, and then we have to redo all the work. Well, being proactive is another key element to making that end part more efficient, particularly if you don't have the ability to do construction lending. All right, guys. Well, we're going to leave the platform open for just a few more minutes here. If you do have any additional questions, go ahead and post them into the Q&A section of the platform right now. Otherwise, go ahead, and if you're interested, in taking advantage of one of those no cost and obligation strategy sessions, go ahead and post that into the in the Q&A section of the website or in the GoToMeeting control panel at this time. Otherwise, if you're watching this on video, feel free to go to the mxlcoach.com/strategy, and that'll register you to receive one of those no-cost, no-obligation strategy sessions if you're curious about finding out more about how coaching can help you accelerate your business growth. Otherwise, thanks again, David, for joining us. Thanks for sharing your wealth of information. I know you've got a very busy schedule, so if you need to jump off, feel free. Folks, we're going to leave the platform open for just a few more minutes to finish up some stuff on the back end, so feel free to go ahead and post any additional questions that you want us to follow up with. David, any final thoughts you'd like to leave our audience with today before you jump off?
Don't be scared. Have fun. Try something new.
Awesome sentiment. Guys, you're right. I mean, new construction is the way to fix the inventory problem. It is a functional reality of the process. It's an exciting and fun process for the family once they get over the jitters of it. And it's a really cool, opportunity to experience the idea of them getting to have some input into how the house is built instead of just having to deal with whatever is or isn't in the home when they get there, kind of thing. It's kind of a unique way of having a sense of accomplishment and achievement. Anyway, all right, David, well, all the best to you and your family. I hope things go well for you, and if there's anything else we can help you with in the future, please feel free to reach out to me here, sir. Thanks again for your time and your valuable knowledge and insight.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Well, folks, that's going to...
stories.
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, folks, as you're listening to this, be sure to chime in with what you do with these ideas and strategies. Let us know. What your successes are and how it's benefiting you in the growth of your business. We'd love to hear those kind of stories and work to share that information. All right, guys, that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hop off. That's going to wrap it up pretty much for today. We're going to leave the platform open for just a few more minutes. If you have any additional questions or comments, again, feel free to go ahead and post them in the Q&A at this time. Otherwise, we wish you all the greatest success, and we look forward to seeing you on future episodes in the Maximum Performance webinar series.